Have you ever stopped to think about the devastating power of expectations? Especially in marriage, where hopes and dreams of what it should be often collide with the reality of what it actually is. Picture a castle built in the air, magnificent in its imagined architecture, but with the first breath of reality, it crumbles. This is the image of what unrealistic expectations can do to a relationship. Today, we will dive into the dark world of unmet expectations, explore their origins, and see how even biblical figures struggled with this reality. Get ready for a journey through broken relationships and shattered hearts, where the true essence of love might, just maybe, find its way back to the light. Unrealistic expectations, where it all begins. In a world flooded with social media and cinema, we are constantly bombarded with images of perfect relationships and happy endings. But what happens when we transport these idyllic scenes to our real lives? Unrealistic expectations begin to be shaped long before we say yes at the altar. They are fueled by movies that end with the couple happily overcoming great adversities, by Instagram posts of meticulously selected romantic moments, and by idealized love stories that ignore the routine and daily challenges. These expectations are like distorted lenses through which we view our partner and our relationship, expecting a modern fairy tale, where conflicts are minimal and passion is always overwhelming. But reality is often less cinematic. Disillusionment sets in when inevitable flaws emerge and the challenges of everyday life wear down the idealization. The consequences? Frustration, resentment, and often the painful feeling that we have been deceived, not by our partner, but by our own cultivated expectations. When we confront this distorted reality with real life, we find ourselves on a battlefield where the weapons are harsh words and the shields are prolonged silences. The modern viewer, like you, may recognize themselves in this description, realizing how their own expectations have shaped and, at times, damaged their most important relationships. King David and Michal, victory without the other. Among the tales of love and power in the Bible, the story of David and Michal stands out as a dark narrative of unmet expectations. Michal, the daughter of King Saul, was promised to David, who won her over with hopes of love and political alliance. However, Michal's expectations were tested when she witnessed David dancing with abandon before the Ark of the Covenant. For her, who expected a king with dignity and composure, this scene was a devastating blow. Michal's unrealistic expectations not only alienated her from David but also corroded the respect and love that could have blossomed between them. She saw in David not a passionate husband and a spiritual leader but a man devoid of the greatness she had imagined. This mismatch of expectations led to the destruction of any possibility for companionship and genuine affection, replaced by contempt and emotional distance. The case of David and Michal is a somber reflection of what happens in many modern marriages. Expectations place an unsustainable burden on the shoulders of a relationship, where each partner expects the other to be an idealized version, often based on fiction or a glorified past. The result is often emotional disconnection, where love is overshadowed by disillusionment. This biblical example shows us that even figures as powerful as kings and queens are not immune to the pitfalls of unrealistic expectations. It invites us to reflect on our own relationships and consider whether we are expecting too much from our partners, building the foundations of our marital happiness on unattainable ideals. Samson and Delilah, the weight of illusion and betrayal. The story of Samson and Delilah is perhaps one of the most tragic tales of love and betrayal in the Bible. Samson, endowed with supernatural strength, harbored unrealistic expectations of Delilah, seeing her as the ideal companion despite their clearly opposing interests. Delilah, on the other hand, manipulated these expectations for her own gain, promising love while plotting his downfall. The relationship between Samson and Delilah highlights the dangerous interplay between desire and illusion. Blinded by love, Samson overlooked the clear signs of Delilah's betrayal. He placed his trust and his heart in someone who, deep down, aimed only at his destruction. This is the weight of illusion, believing so fervently in a false reality that one becomes vulnerable to the most painful of awakenings. Delilah's betrayal was not just the cutting of Samson's hair but the dismantling of his dignity and strength. This dark episode illustrates how unrealistic expectations can lead to betrayal, not just emotional, but also physical. It mirrors betrayals in modern marriages, where unrealistic expectations often lead to profound disappointments and irreparable damage. The lesson of Samson and Delilah serves as a warning to us all. Expectations not only shape our perception but can also blind us to the realities around us. In a marriage, where trust is the backbone, allowing unrealistic expectations to govern can be a recipe for disaster. The impact of expectations on the life of Job and his wife. The story of Job offers an intensely somber perspective on expectations and reality within marriage. Job, a righteous and God-fearing man, faced unimaginable losses that tested every bit of his faith. Amid his suffering, his wife's reaction is particularly telling. She, who shared her life with a man known for his integrity and prosperity, suddenly found herself plunged into despair and misery. Her expectations of a continued life of blessings were brutally shattered. Often misunderstood, Job's wife not only faced the loss of her children and their wealth but also watched the man she loved being consumed by physical and emotional afflictions. Her words to Job, suggesting that he curse God and die, reflect the depth of her own despair and the destruction of her expectations. She anticipated a life free from suffering alongside a blessed husband, and instead, she found herself trapped in a vortex of misfortune. This episode highlights how unrealistic expectations about a trouble-free marital life can leave us ill-prepared for real challenges. When life storms hit, these shattered expectations can lead to a loss of faith, both in God and in the marriage itself. Suffering in marriage then becomes not just a test of endurance but also a mirror of expectations that perhaps should never have been so absolute. Job's story teaches us that, rather than expecting to avoid adversity, we should prepare to face it together, recognizing that the true strength of a marriage lies not in the absence of problems but in the ability to persevere through them. Jesus and true love, the difference between expectation and reality. At the heart of the New Testament, we find the figure of Jesus Christ, whose love transcended common expectations and challenged the conventions of the time. Many expected a political and conquering Messiah, but Jesus presented a model of love based on sacrifice and service. This contrast between the expectations of Jesus' contemporaries and the reality of his mission offers a profound lesson on human relationships, particularly marriage. Jesus taught that true love does not seek its own interests, does not feed on illusions of grandeur or perfection, but thrives in the soil of reality, where imperfections are recognized and accepted. He demonstrated this love in ways that often puzzled those around him, choosing to wash his disciples' feet, an act of humility in service that was, at that time, reserved for servants. In the marital context, the love that Jesus exemplifies is one that sees beyond faults and fragilities, choosing to serve rather than to be served. This kind of love leaves no room for unrealistic expectations because it is grounded in acceptance and the pursuit of the other's well-being above all else. In marriages where this principle is applied, conflicts are approached not with the intention of winning an argument but with the goal of understanding and strengthening the relationship. The life and teachings of Jesus offer a clear vision of how true love should be practiced. He shows that love is not a feeling that thrives under ideal conditions and moments of ease, but a constant decision to commit and sacrifice for the loved one, even when expectations are unmet. This realistic and deeply committed love is the antidote to the unrealistic expectations that so often sabotage relationships. It invites us to redefine our expectations, not in search of a partner who meets all our desires, but someone with whom we can build a life of mutual understanding, respect, and genuine care. How unrealistic expectations destroy modern marriage, 300 to 400 words. In the digital age, where the lives of seemingly perfect couples are constantly displayed on social media, many real marriages face the pressure to live up to these idealized images. The distorted reality presented by online platforms can make couples feel that something is missing in their own relationship, fostering dissatisfaction and discontent. The problem with unrealistic expectations is that they set an unattainable standard of perfection. Couples may start to believe that any sign of conflict or difficulty is an indication that their relationship is flawed, rather than a natural part of life together. This mindset can lead to a constant search for something better, an endless cycle of disillusionment. The consequences of these excessive expectations are severe. They can cause significant emotional stress and strain on the relationship. When one or both partners feel that their emotional needs are not being met, often because these needs are actually disproportionate expectations, resentment can grow. This resentment often turns into emotional distancing or, worse, separation. Furthermore, constant comparison with other couples can obscure what is truly valuable in one's own relationship. The ability to appreciate the small joys and joint accomplishments is lost because it always seems like something bigger and better is being experienced by others. This cycle of comparison and dissatisfaction can destroy the foundation of respect and love that sustains any healthy marriage. The solution: the perfect and transformative love of Jesus Christ. The pathway to overcoming unrealistic expectations in marriage is illuminated by the example of the perfect love demonstrated by Jesus Christ. Unlike fallible human representations, his love was characterized by perfection, unconditional compassion, and selfless service. Jesus exemplified that true love is patient, kind, does not seek its own interests, but sacrifices for the well-being of others. In this model of perfect love, there is no place for the unrealistic expectations that so often distort modern relationships. Instead of searching for a partner who fulfills every demand or who never fails, the love taught by Jesus encourages us to recognize and celebrate each other's humanity, accepting imperfections while striving to be better for each other. This love understands that conflict and challenges are natural parts of any human relationship, especially in marriage, and that facing them together strengthens the bond. Implementing this type of love in a marriage means practicing forgiveness, understanding, and patience consistently. It involves looking beyond faults to see your spouse as a true life partner, someone with whom you commit to grow and evolve. This love creates a safe space where both partners can feel vulnerable without fear of judgment or rejection, fostering a deeper and more meaningful connection. By redefining expectations and centering the relationship on Christ's perfect and sacrificial love, couples can discover a renewed source of happiness and satisfaction. The love of Jesus challenges us to remove the masks of perfection, confronting life and love as they truly are, full of challenges, but also filled with deep and lasting rewards. Conclusion. As we conclude our journey through the deep waters of unrealistic expectations and true love, it is essential to remember the central message that has permeated our discussions: love, especially within marriage, is not a constant of perfection but a process of continuous growth and acceptance. The story of Jesus Christ, with his sacrificial love and acceptance of human imperfections, serves as a beacon for all those seeking to restore and strengthen their marital bonds. Marriage, though often shaken by unmet expectations and disillusionments, holds at its core the possibility of renewal. When we learn to set aside illusions of perfection and embrace the reality of each other's imperfections, we discover the true meaning of sacrificial love. This love not only survives the storms but is strengthened by them, finding in shared fragility an uncommon strength. Let this reflection serve as comfort and inspiration to face relationship challenges not as signs of failure but as opportunities for deepening commitment and mutual understanding. After all, it is in the recognition of our flaws and the celebration of our common humanity that love finds its most sacred space to flourish. We therefore conclude with a note of hope: may every couple view their expectations not as insurmountable barriers but as bridges to a deeper understanding and more authentic love.